I am prayer. Thank you so much, Yankov. I don't know where the prayer ends and the prayer begins. So, it's good, right? And King David said this, yes?
Is that like one of the highest levels to reach, to be about the Tefillah, or like
yes.
to become a Tefillah?
To become, King David himself said, Va'ani tefillah, I am prayer. Means you didn't know where King David ended and the prayer began. The prayer, David is the prayer, the player. The player ends but in this case it doesn't work because the player is not doing a player, but the prayer is doing prayer, saying the prayer.
On Shabbat, Va'ani tefilati.
Yeah, Va'ani tefillah. On Shabbos you could become this. Shabbos is the day of King David. Shabbos is the day, if you haven't noticed, we spend more time in prayer. So in this book that it's, as was mentioned, so the geishas, one of the lines I remember that was very, was very moving, the concept, these are be called Sifrei Minas, Achitzoinim, was that a person went and he was learning and becoming more integrated into the Japanese geisha world and seeing that universe, especially the older generations, like the old geishas. And one of the things that they do is everything is like this art. The way that they pour tea, the way that they dress, the way that they dance. Like I mentioned, this would not necessarily be kosher because there are certain things that it's not between a husband and wife. So, but I want to pull out a concept from it, which was this person was remarking that they noticed that there were, geishas that were the best of what they did. And they would pour tea, and so he made a comment, he said, I noticed certain geishas, in the memoirs of the geisha, I noticed certain geishas that I didn't know where they ended and the tea being poured started. I didn't know there was like one fluid thing. Where was the person ending and where was the act of pouring a tea starting? Or where was the dance ending and the person beginning? I didn't know, it was all one. Like a great musician, Chaim will appreciate this, that the guitar becomes so one with the person. I don't know where the person ends and the guitar begins. And the guitar ends and the person begins. What do you mean? There's a person and a guitar. No, they've become one. It's like an extension of the person. You become so fluid and integrated with the guitar. Growing up, I remember hearing Trey. And Trey, fish, PH. And Trey, so good. By the way, I want to invite Trey and the Chevra there for Shabbos. And they're welcome to come. There's a lot of Chevra there. And we'll make a nice Shabbos by us. Mike, Fishman. And when Trey would play, it was like you didn't know where he ended and the song began. You were sort of blending and losing yourself into it. So that's just, Hashem sent that as a hint to the ultimate experience of that, is you don't know where you end and God begins. You don't know where you end and the prayer begins. You become the prayer. Because the secret is Ein Oid Milvadoi. There's nothing but you, Hashem. And we're all going back into that oneness. Prayer is the ultimate experience of something called Dveikus. Dveikus means absolute connection to Hashem. That's why we spend a lot of time in prayer and tefillah and something to work on. Prayer is a very, 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 very powerful thing. And to learn prayer and to spend time with it. So we're learning together, Baruch Hashem. And we were at the part where we said that Hashem, we want to do it for you. We want that we should be connected to you all the time. And then we go on. And we say, Avinu Av Harachamam. Hashem, you're my compassionate Father. My compassionate Father. People are late with it. There's lots going on. If a person, if the light goes green, and they haven't moved in literally a millisecond, you have to, I think it's a halach I saw it somewhere, you have to put your hand on the horn non-stop, right? Because, now by the way, it's very funny. It's not funny, it's just horrible. Like, look what we've become. But something that I would advise people, don't go on your phone by red lights. Because it's bound to happen that there's problems. Not push it. Be very, very careful with these things. Very, very careful. And it's also bound to happen that you're just going to be spacing out on the phone. For anybody who's not aware, we're talking about all the honking happening outside here, and now whistleblowing and yelling. It's going to pick that up because it's Torah pages. Thank you. I'm breezing nicely. Okay. Okay. So we're talking about that God is a compassionate Father. Compassionate Father means God is always going above and beyond to help us. He helps the ones. This is a double language. Avinu av harachaman hamirachem. Compassionate Father, the compassionate one.
Redundant.
Isn't that redundant? What do you guys say? You got to learn this stuff up like a Gemara. What's going on? You just said, my Father, the Father of compassion, the compassionate one. Be compassionate upon us. I understand addressing Hashem as the compassionate one, have compassion upon us, because now you're asking for the compassion. But compassionate Father, compassionate one, have compassion. What's the extra, have compassion? What do you guys think?
If it's very important, you're going to repeat it multiple times for a reason.
So you think it's just, we're pointing something out, like I'm amazed at the compassion. I have to just mention it again.
It's an emphasis.
An emphasis, okay. Any other thoughts, Rabbi Isai? It's interactive here.
Am I repeating it again?
In our tefillah before Shema,
Before Shema.
we say, Ovinu av harachaman. Our Father, the Father who's so compassionate.
The merciful Father, who has mercifully have mercy upon us.
There's a lot of mercy in there. Let's say compassion. The compassionate one. Have compassion. Why are we, what's up with the compassionate one? The compassionate one. Have compassion.
Because he has a will, so he can choose to have mercy on us or not in some occasions.
So he is compassionate.
He is by definition, yes.
So that's Avinu Avarachaman, the compassionate one. So, but I could still get that. I mean, sometimes he's compassionate in his essence. Sometimes he may or may not decide to show that to us. So that would be sufficient just to say, Avinu Avarachaman, our Father, the compassionate one. In essence, Rachem, have compassion upon us. What's this extra? We add this extra, merciful, extra compassion. So the Mefarshim, the great Tzadikim, the wise sages of our tradition, explain that Hashem has certain levels of compassion. Hashem shows compassion to people that are following Him and that are listening to Him. But you know what? Hashem even shows compassion oftentimes to people that are going against Hashem. That's very compassionate. I understand that somebody is a very nice person when you're doing what they want. But as soon as you become a bit of a troublemaker, they turn into not that nice. Meaning they're really compassionate as soon as you are not deserving of their compassion. But Hashem is not like that. Hashem is compassionate, both when you do His will, Harachman, and you're compassionate even the people that aren't doing your will. You want to hear a wild proof of this? A wild concept from one of the most famous Kabbalah books called the Toimer Devoira, written by the great Kabbalist Rav Moshe Chaim from Tzfat. Yeah, it's good stuff up there. We invite our global family to come visit the land of Israel, come for a trip up to Tzfat, hop in the Arizal's mikveh, and go for a visit to Rav Moshe Chaim. Today's Daf Yomi is speaking about how when Kaleb ben Yefuna, when he was going to the Kivrei Avos in Chevra, he went there because going to the grave sites of the righteous is a tremendously powerful thing to do for a number of reasons. One is that their bones, the Drosh Haran says, their bones, their bodies became so filled with holiness in their lifetime that holiness is still there at that place. I mean, you go there, you could tap into those vibes. Not only that, the souls of those people hover around that place. So Rav Moshe Chaim in Tomer Devorah said the following. By the way, all of Tomer Devorah is a Tomer Devorah. Again.
13 attributes of mercy.
Oh yeah, it's good stuff. The palm tree of Deborah's palm tree. So Tomer Devorah goes over. We learn a lot in yeshivas in the month of Elul when we're getting ready for Rosh Hashanah. Tomer Devorah goes over how to become like God. That the best way to come close to God is to be like God. We've said this many times before. Closeness and physicality is measured in distance. How close am I to somebody else? Well, how far apart are we? I'm 1 yard from the end line. That's how close I am to them physically. But closeness and spirituality is measured in similarity. How close am I to someone spiritually is how similar are we? So God is not physical, God is spiritual. So how do you get close to God? You have to become similar to God. So the Tomer Devorah goes over all the godly qualities. That God is a giver. You want to be like God? Stop being such a taker. Stop being so selfish. Stop becoming a giver. You want to be like God? God is compassionate. Start being more compassionate. Stop being so into yourself. Go out of yourself. Help people. Be a helper. God's a helper. Be a helper. God is graceful. You want to be close to God? Become more graceful. So it goes over that from a Kabbalistic framework. It's unbelievable. Now, who wouldn't want to learn that? Oh, but there's TikTok, Rabbi. I'd rather do that. No, you don't. Your animal soul does, but not you. So listen to what the Tomer Devorah says. Tomer Devorah says, one of the greatest proofs of the unbelievable compassion that God has for humans is, how do we move our bodies? Can I move my body if God was not helping me? Rabbi Noach Weinberg always had a line that he'd bring people into his office and he would say, so can you save humanity? Can you save the Jewish people? So they would say, nah, I don't know. I'm just like a, accountant from Jersey. I don't know. Never thought about that. That's for the big rabbis and stuff. Leave that to the, to the big people. He said, well, can you move your finger? He's like, yeah. He would say, you're a heretic. You're a heretic. It's like, what, Rabbi? You're a heretic. 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 It's like, Rabbi, I thought you were my friend. What? You said you could move your finger. Could you move your finger if God didn't let you move your finger? It's like, you're right, not, because, God gives life to all things. I couldn't move my finger. So it's God moving your finger. Right? Yeah? But you can't, if God lets you save humanity, can you? If it's God. I guess so. Said, well, you told me that you're moving your finger, but you can't do humanity? You don't believe in God. You don't believe in God. You think you're the ones moving your finger? Hashem is doing it. So Hashem can help you move your finger. Hashem can help you save all of humanity. The guy's like, whoa, Rabbi, that's good stuff. So listen to the Tomer Devorah. The Tomer Devorah said, if somebody is rebelling against God, it's talking about not to double cross somebody. Hashem says, I don't take revenge and double cross, so you also shouldn't. And the proof is, because let's say there's a guy and he's breaking Shabbos. He's breaking Shabbos. He's turning on the light on Shabbos. Now, it's like he's, so to speak, he's not actually doing it, like punching God in the face. He's breaking Shabbos. Hashem said not to do that. But it's funny. Like, who's giving his hand the animation to touch the light switch? It's God. So as he's moving his finger towards the light switch to break Shabbos, God, which is like punching God, God is allowing him, as he's punching God in the face, Hashem is just like, okay, keep it coming. Hashem is giving him life force as he's punching God in the face. So you think that somebody would do something, now I got to get him back. Hashem says, even the people that go against me, I'm giving them life as they go against me. Crazy stuff. Crazy stuff. That's time of the Devorah. So even the people that are rebelling against God, God is giving them life as they're punching God in the face, so to speak. Because God is patient and says, I'm going to keep giving you life. I want you to do tshuva. I'm going to give you more chances. But eventually all the chances end. Yeah, Josh.
You'd be a fun person to go to this question with. Let's go to the Holocaust one. Or like mass human tragedy. Why does Hashem give life force to those that are doing massive destruction, where it's no longer just personal, of like, if I'm turning on a light switch, it's not impacting you, it's not impacting others, but if I'm seeking out to kill millions, Jews, non-Jews, whatever, doesn't matter in this case, that's impacting other people.
So you're asking questions that are mega. We have to proceed slowly.
Great.
I always go back to the way that the Ramban explained when he had a student. This was during the times of the Crusades, which was bloody and horrible throughout Europe 1,000 years ago. And the Ramban had asked one of his students that after he passes on from this world, these were great Kabbalists, he said that you should come back and explain some of the reasons, because you're going to see glimpses of things when you get to the world of truth up there, of why some of these things were happening. So come back down to me in a dream through the ways of Kabbalah, visit, give me the signs that this is a true dream, which there are certain signs of that, and then tell me why some of these things are happening. And after that student passed away, it was some time before the student came back. And then when he did come back, the Ramban said, so please tell me, what were the reasons why some of these things were happening? And listen to these words. The student said, Rebbe, where you are, there's no answers to some of these questions. But where I am, there's no more questions. So there wasn't even that I had to come down. Like, it all was clear up there. But you bet that Hashem owes us a big explanation. We don't know everything. One of the analogies that is very moving is you hear screaming on the other side of a door. And we relate to this here. And you look through the keyhole and you see a person with a knife and they're stabbing a human being, Hashem Yirachim. And there's blood and screaming. And you kick down the door and you walk in and you see bright lights and you're in an operating theater. And you see that the person's having open heart surgery and they're saving the guy's life. So from the narrow perspective, it seemed horrible. And it is horrible. But once you see the entire picture, there's clarity. We don't know all the answers. We don't know all the answers. These are things that are way beyond us. way beyond us. But sometimes we get glimpses into some of these things. And some of the glimpses oftentimes relate to knowing the truth that we believe firmly in reincarnation. Firmly, absolutely in reincarnation. And therefore, we don't know the score that was going on in previous lifetimes with people and things that they have to work out coming back into this lifetime. These are complex matters. You need real big people to speak to about details in this. And even the real big people will tell you that we don't know all the details. But there are people who know some of the details. If the Arizal was here, he could tell you details. He could tell you what reincarnation you're from, where you're from. And he could take you all the way back with detail. We don't have that. You can't go and there's no the hotline, Gilgal hotline, 1-800-GILGAL. And you call it up, $99.99, and they map you back. It doesn't go like that. You get glimpses of certain things. One of the famous stories with the Baal Shem is the beginning of Parshas Mishpatim. Mishpatim is the Torah portion that speaks a lot about laws. Laws between man and his fellow. Laws between Mishpatim. Mishpatim is the Parsha that comes after Yisro. The Jewish people get the Torah, and then immediately the next Parsha goes into intricate Bein Adam Lachaveroi, interpersonal laws. Like your cow, gored, how do you say that in 2023? Smashed. This guy's ox. So in 2023, your Chevy, busted that other guy's, Camry, and who's got to pay? And what are the details of that? And intricate details of monetary law and people's court and how to deal with that type of stuff. A lot of money stuff.
The judge is structured, right?
The whole structure of it and how to deal with monetary cases. This person did this thing to me. This guy dug a pit in a public thoroughfare. Or better yet, he didn't dig the pit. He was working with the manhole, but he left and didn't cover it. He went home, he was spacing out with his TikTok feed, and he forgot to cover the manhole, and then some guy fell in and broke his leg. What do you do? How do you determine? What are the details in this? All of it. So, if you open the Zohar in Parshas Mishpatim, the Zohar is organized into the Parshas of the Torah. And you read it. The Zohar is good stuff. We're getting closer to the light of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. So, we have to say little sparks of the Zohar. So the Zohar, many tzadikim said they didn't know how to be alive if they didn't have the Zohar. Or Baruch Mezhbich would just dance with the Zohar. I wouldn't be alive without this sefer.
So is the Zohar a commentary on the Chumash?
Yes, it's a commentary on life. But yes, it's structured. There's a few parts of the Zohar. One of them is structured and written in the weekly portion. You can learn the weekly portion from your blue art scroll Chumash, and then follow that up with, a Thursday night Mishmar Zohar on the Parsha.
Starts with the rose, but I was confused and I just stopped and was like,
The rose. You're like, what's going on with the rose? I advise you, do not buy an English translation of the Zohar.
Yeah, big mistake.
No. It's written in Aramaic. You have to get any type of let's call it commentary from very, very holy people. One of the most famous ones, the first of which was the Sulam. The Bala Sulam opened up the Zohar, so to speak, for more the Hamoinam, in a language that never before was available for people to enter these hallowed, sanctums. And more recently, the Mosek Midvash opened the Zohar up you'll have guys going up to Reb Shimon this next week, and they're coming home Rabbi, they gave me this stuff out, I don't know, these little booklets. The guy's walking around little Zohar booklets. And you got, he's eating a hamburger, talking to me. He's they just gave me this stuff up there. I started reading it, I was getting a little bit. So it's the light is coming down. It's coming all the way down. So in the introduction to the Zohar, we'll just make one more minute. I know it's getting to the end. In the introduction to the Zohar on Parsha Mishpatim, Mishpatim opens up, Dahi Sifra de Gilgalusa. This is the Sefer, this is the book of Gilgulim, of reincarnations. So, Sefer Mishpatim talks about Chevys bumping into Camrys. Reincarnations? What does that have to do with anything? So the Maggid from Mezhbich, he came to his Rebbe, the Baal Shem, and he said, Rebbe, please explain what this means. I don't understand. So the Baal Shem Tov said, go into the forest to this river at this and this a place, at this and this a time, and just wait there. Okay? The Baal Shem Tov said it, so he went. And he got to this place by the river, and he was hiding in the bush, just waiting, and all of a sudden he saw across the river, there was a man who was dressed in full regalia at night, and he sat down, got off his horse, sat by a tree to rest a little bit, ate a little bit, got up, left, and the rabbi that was there noticed that he left behind a money pouch. Okay, interesting. A short time later, somebody else comes onto the scene, just sees the money pouch, looks left, looks right, nobody there, takes the money pouch, books it. A short time later, a third person comes, a homeless person, like a hobo. He comes, sits down under the tree, takes a little pita out of his sack, the red with the white polka dots, and he opens it up and just goes down by the tree and just rests. Now in the meantime, who do you think came back? The owner, the knight. The first one comes back with his regalia to the tree that he sat down, and he starts, he sees this person, the homeless man. He said, give me my wallet. He said, I have no idea what time, I just came to rest by the tree. And he starts beating him to a pulp. Meanwhile, the rabbi is sitting there like by the tree, like trying to maybe go help, but gone, and everything just, that was the end. It's like, what just happened? So obviously he ran back to the Baal Shem Tov, understood like, this is probably why he sent me there, and this is all kind of crazy. So he said, Rebbe, my question was why the whole Torah portion on monetary stuff had to do with reincarnations. And you sent me to watch this like interesting thing just unfold in front of my eyes. So the Baal Shem Tov said, well, let me tell you. In a previous lifetime, the knight and the second guy went to court. And in court, the knight was awarded money from the second guy that did not belong to him. He extorted money out of the second guy. And the matter was not investigated enough. And guy number one extorted that money. Guy number one had to come back into this lifetime to give that money back. Who was guy number three? He was the judge who didn't investigate the case as properly as possible. So when it comes to this dimension of why we're here and why bad happens, we have to always keep in mind there's a dimension happening that once we add that layer, a lot of other things can start to come into picture. We should be Zoicha Mamish to have that great clarity with Mashiach Tzidkein B'mhir. Amen. Call to.